You are watching the Noise Commander 3DS channel. Here I document the progress of my homebrew beatmaking app for the Nintendo 3DS and 2DS that I develop. Think DJ mixing of tracker-style sequences with groovebox features such as probability and Euclidean rhythms. Please subscribe if that sounds interesting to you and install the demo version via the Universal Updater app on your console.
You are clearly insane.
I've never killed anyone.
In this video I want to showcase the Axelotti device which I recently bought on eBay. As I no longer have an income, I was hesitant to spend money and I only bookmarked it, but nobody else bought it for several weeks, and I eventually took it because I was intrigued by the faders. It has high quality components that feel really good for live performing. The case is made of metal and feels quite heavy, which reduces slipping on the table. Let me explain what it actually is. The Axelotti core is a system on a chip like the Arduino that is designed for audio processing specifically. The node-based patcher software allows wiring individual objects similar to Native Instruments Reactor or supposedly Node Modular. The software and firmware is open source and can be obtained from GitHub. When the user clicks the Live button, then the patch is translated into C++ source code, is compiled and uploaded as firmware to the device via USB. The entire project was conceived and developed by Johannes Telman, a Belgian engineer, and released in the year 2015 after a crowdfunding campaign. The price was relatively low. I believe it was 65 euros plus VAT and shipping, amounting to a little less than 100 euros in total. The hardware was out of stock most of the time. At first I ordered only one, but later that year I ordered 2 more. Today I own 6 of them. There was also a DIY PCB which you could buy to add a few potentiometers and buttons via the GPIO pins, and a small OLED screen could optionally be connected too. The community and the website forum were fruitfully active for a few years, but the website disappeared eventually. Nodes can be written from scratch with the C++ language, or existing node graphs can be compounded into a single reusable node object. There are tutorial and demo patches bundled with the factory content. Many exciting and experimental objects were contributed via GitHub from the users. Oscillators, filters, samplers, effects, sequencers, utility nodes, etc. One person was especially prolific, going by the name Sir Sigsig, SSS in short. In the browser the user objects are grouped by the creator, and Sir Sigsig has created the most by far. I find the design of the system marvelous. It has the ability to embed helper or example patches into the objects to demonstrate their usage, which can be opened by right-clicking the object. A starter patch can be defined which will be loaded if the unit is not connected to a computer. Parameter presets can be stored and recalled, and a patch can function as a synthesizer voice that is instantiated multiple times for polyphonic play. I don't use this often, but it's great that it exists. If you search for the Axelotti on the web and YouTube, then you will find many cool hardware builds and custom synthesizers that people have made. Some turned the board into a Eurorack module. The part of the PCB that contains the DIN MIDI sockets can be separated and rewired to make the board more narrow, or it can be discarded entirely. Since the Axelotti is also a USB MIDI host and has DIN MIDI ports, it is perfect for any MIDI translation tooling you'd want, or as a programmable MIDI controller for other hardware. Eventually I bought 2 DIY kit cases from Hoham Labs that contain a screen along with 9 potis and 4 buttons. The Axelotti has an 186 MHz STM32 something microcontroller, 256 kilobytes of SRAM, 8 megabytes of SDRAM and 1 megabyte flash storage. There are 2 spiritual successors to the original Axelotti. The Axo from zRNA Research was short-lived and had an STM32 something else CPU clocked at 480 MHz, 1 megabyte of SRAM and 32 megabytes of SDRAM. I own one, and alas, although it is much more powerful, my main gripe with it is that I have not been able to send any MIDI signals out of the USB port, and it does not come with physical DIN MIDI ports. I even soldered my own MIDI port to it, but it didn't work. I'm still telling myself that I should add a 3.5 audio clock plug to at least be able to synchronize external gear. The firmware and patcher software were cloned and modified. Most, but not all, original Axelotti objects are compatible. I believe the objects required for OLED screens had reported to not work. With the added power and memory it is still great, and I should probably do more with it. The second and only currently available spiritual successor is called Axoloti. I will add a link to the website in the description of this video. I don't own this one, but from what I read, the CPU and memory are the same as the original, and it works with the original firmware and editor. It does not come with DIN MIDI ports, however there is a so-called GIL kit, which provides physical controls in a hardware case. Looking back, I am confident to say that the Axelotti core is one of the best pieces of gear that I ever owned, because as a programmer I can make it do many things. It is extremely flexible and cost-effective. I should mention that the SD RAM limits the possible size of your executable, and I did hit the limit multiple times. The Axelotti could also be seen as an alternative to real modular gear or to VCV Rec. The high cost of modular always kept me from getting into it. Anyway, this was the first time I dabbled with Euclidean sequencing and randomized music making. I was very inspired by the load train object from Sir Sigsig, which lets you load and replace random samples as you play. So I combined these approaches and built something like a groovebox that had 8 drum lanes and 4 randomizable sample sequencers. I would connect my Arturia drum boot to the MIDI in socket to sequence the drums, which trigger semi-random samples, while the other 4 sequencers play Euclidean synths and FX patterns. I used an Akai APC Mini as a MIDI controller. So I would record very long sessions and cut out the boring parts. I have 2 recordings that I cherish and that aged extremely well. I've been listening to them repeatedly during the last 3 years. They will be shared on this channel, so be sure to subscribe if you're interested in that. Of course I had to add a chained Euclidean sequencer and sample randomization to Noise Commander in order to reproduce the same workflow. In my previous video I used this bad boy to detect a click track on the right channel coming from the Nintendo 3DS and convert it to a MIDI clock. It also generates random noise with an oscillator and a delay effect with some editable parameters. Now I built 2 new patches to show you. The first is a respace patch that I plan to port and add to Noise Commander. Converting each individual object will take a lot of trial and error plus time, however. The second patch is to simulate crossfader moves when scratching with my SC1000 turntable. Specifically, the crab and twiddle moves are basically created via a square LFO, which mutes the audio repeatedly at 2 different rates depending on which button is held. I also added a pitch shifter because it is otherwise difficult to alter the pitch, but I find that this is an important aspect. I didn't say that I'm particularly good at this, in fact I suck butt, but it brings me joy.
Come on, give me a break. Get busy time.
The finest ingredients are right in the mix. Right in the mix. The mix.